So Russell Brand is in trouble. Now, here's something. I want to read this from the BBC. From the BBC, Russell Brand resurfaced clips give a sobering reminder of naughties culture. The naughties are the knots, you know, as in the 00s of the early century, the early part of the zeros, the naughties. We're being very naughty right now. From BBC, the naughties aren't so long ago that it's possible to dismiss them as a different age. But there are parts of the decade that British culture would rather forget. Russell Brand was at the center of a messy celebrity scene in the 2000s that now feels like the cool Britannia party gone sour. The recent allegations against the comedian and resurfaced clips of things he said and did on the air and on stage have provided a sobering reminder of the seedier side of pop and media culture in that decade. Okay, hang on. All right, first of all, Russell Brand is kind of like their Howard Stern. Okay? Okay, you know exactly what you were getting in those days with Russell Brand. Okay? Just think Howard Stern. Now, it's provided a sobering reminder of the seedier side of pop media culture in that decade. Could I just ask the BBC to turn on the radio and listen to the lyrics of songs they're now playing? Because I guarantee there's something playing on the BBC about somebody's butt doing something. Among the claims, now listen to this. Resurfaced clips is what this is all about. Among the claims in Channel 4's recent dispatched investigation into the star, there was a clip from his BBC Radio 2 show in 2007 that seemed to have gone largely unnoticed at the time. In it, Brand interviewed Jimmy Savile. Now, Jimmy Savile was a big radio host.
Top of the Pops, right?
Top of the Pops. Yeah. Everybody loved Jimmy Savile. They found out that he's a child predator and was molesting kids in the hospital while he was visiting. But nobody knows this at the time. Among claims in Channel 4's recent dispatches, it shows him on BBC in 2007. In it, Brand interviewed Jimmy Savile and apparently offered up his very attractive assistant to go meet him naked. Sound like Howard Stern?
Right.
Okay. This is in 2007. He said this to the BBC host of Top of the Pops. Another BBC host said, hey, you go ahead and take my assistant here. She'll get naked. Ha, 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 ha. Funny. He said, naughty word. Naughty, get it? Okay. When did they expose, so to speak, Jimmy Savile being a child predator? When was that, Stu?
2012?
2012. So something that went unnoticed in 2007.
Because no one knew about the accusation.
No one knew about it. Okay. While the clip was from before Savile had been exposed as a serial sexual predator, it's scarcely believed now that it was broadcast on Britain's biggest radio station. You know, wait a minute. Hang on just a second. Not that Russell Brand said that. That's not really the problem, the BBC. The problem is you hired that guy and held him up as a hero for decades on the BBC. It's one of several clips of Brand pushing the line between outrageous and offensive stuff that were used in a Channel 4 documentary on Saturday. Okay, they're doing an expose on what they aired 20 years ago and making Russell Brand into the bad guy. You aired it. You aired it. I mean, it's like it's like Westwood One coming in and saying, "Let me tell you something. I want to show you some videotape of what Howard Stern was doing." Yeah, because you were paying him to do it. is that a problem for him and not you? I don't know. It's crazy.
And they actually are sort of doing that to start now, right? Like there's definitely people who are out there looking for...
You spend 5 minutes and you can find it.
You can find it.
Of course.
I actually, just over the September 11th, anniversary, happened to stumble upon this Howard Stern show from September 11th. Wow, It is a different era. The difference in as that's going on, they're watching planes hit the buildings in real time, and it's a fascinating thing to watch just from a historical perspective. But the anger on the show and the way that they were talking. The words they were saying, the things that came out of their mouths, it was, were
they singing songs about doing things with people's butts?
They were not.
Okay,
there was none of that.
Then.
They were doing that right before the segment.
Okay,
right before the planes actually hit the buildings. But it was interesting to just hear Robin Quivers in particular, was ready to nuke the entire Middle East.
Yeah.
It was pretty interesting to watch, but they're going back. You go back and watch those shows. Look, it was a different time. You're going to judge these by today's standards. That's always dumb. It's always dumb to go back to a previous era and judge it by today's standards. It's always dumb to do that. And it does seem to be what everyone wants to do.
Well, I just can't take the employer doing a documentary on how outrageous he was and how he should be stoned to death. At the time, they were paying him to do those things.
Amazing.
I mean, that takes quite the balls.
Well, and the BBC in particular is in the Russell Brand situation is specifically accused. They are they were saying they were helping it along.
Yeah,
that's the accusation.
Yeah. Maybe somebody should do a documentary on BBC.
Right. They were sending cars to pick up the girls that were 16 years old for Russell Brand.
Which, by the way, was not illegal at the time. It sounds horrible, but it wasn't illegal at the time.
And no one's just saying that it was illegal, but not necessarily the best.
Now, why is this all happening to him? Why?
It's a good question. I think there's a very obvious answer to it.
Go ahead.
When he was famous and married to Katy Perry and doing all this, there was no news of these accusations. He was known as a bad guy, right? A very promiscuous guy to his own telling. He wrote a book about it. He was addicted to drugs. He was addicted to alcohol.
And he's
addicted
changed
to sex.
all of that.
He says he's changed all of that and has become a commentator who has been skeptical of some of the things you're not allowed to be skeptical of, like COVID,
climate change,
and ESG standards.
Yeah, the World Economic Forum is his biggest thing.
And now he's being targeted for
this.
Now, look, I think you, of course, would agree that if he committed horrible crimes against people, he should be punished for them.
Yes.
Even if he has reformed his character, he still is held responsible for crimes.
Yes.
But this does not seem to be what's...
I'm having a hard time in this culture where we just make accusations and we destroy people. Now, listen.
Agreed.
Russell Brand has now been demonetized by YouTube. Now, what does that mean? Russell Brand makes his money on his YouTube videos. Okay? So they've just demonetized him. So they won't sell or give him any money for what he's doing. The BBC said it would remove some programs featuring him from its streaming services. So they were still paying for the guy. Now it looks like YouTube is doing the same. I'm trying to find the YouTube because the quote from YouTube is absolutely amazing. Where is it? Brand took his online social media platforms, saying it was a coordinated attack. Yes, it was. They said that now, I can't find the exact quote.
While you're looking for that, can we just think quickly about what the line is here? Because there's a process that goes on when you are going to be convicted of a crime. And that begins with an accusation, then becomes an investigation, then comes a charge filed against you. Then comes a conviction. Then comes a
sentence.
A sentence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why can't these companies just draw a line? Make the line. What's the line? A charge, Right? Like if someone gets criminally charged with something, we're going to pull them off of our service. If they're going
Is that fair?
I don't know. I would say conviction is
it was
the one.
conviction.
That's what I would go with personally.
I would too.
If you're convicted of a crime, even if you might still say you're innocent, and we have to have some way of sorting this out. That's what our legal system is for.
And if you want to do that, then if you want to take it off early, you just pay the person. Pay the person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
so they
like
you don't destroy
right?
their life. Yeah,
the NFL, if you're under contract and someone comes up with an accusation and they think they need to pull you off, they pull you out and they put you on the commissioner's suspended list, but you're still getting paid because, look, there's no conviction. Nothing has been proven. If you're proven in a court of law to be guilty of a crime, it makes sense. You might want to, that is the line probably. Instead, what it is if someone accuses you. Now, of course, people have been saying bad things about Russell Brand for a really long time. He's been saying bad things about himself for a very, very long time. All the money that came through YouTube was fine until this news story was written. Again, he has not been even charged with a crime, let alone convicted of one.
I know.
He has not even been charged. Now, he may be charged and convicted later on.
He might be.
But he hasn't been yet.
Correct. He says his relationships were always consensual. He was accused of rape and sexual assaults between 2006 and 2013. He denies the claims. Were any charges filed? Did anybody go to the police at the time? Anything. He says no, I don't want to judge because I don't know we're not in a courtroom. But here's what YouTube said. You ready for this standard, Stu? See if this is a little earlier than conviction. If a creator's off-platform behavior harms our users, our employees, or ecosystem, we take action. Now, I don't know how his off-platform behavior in 2006
was that before YouTube even existed?
Yeah. It harmed your users, employees, or ecosystem. What they're saying is, if somebody calls in our ecosystem and says, I can't believe you guys are doing this. I'm not going to advertise, or I'm not going to provide that, that chair for your conference room. I'm not going to do it because you would keep him up. That harms the ecosystem and they can take action. We live in the Salem Witch Trial times.
It's true. And you know what, though? I can understand how these companies react this way. I mean, go back to your book, Dark Future and the Great Reset. I mean, and then great example of this is Twitter. You go use Twitter or whatever the heck they're calling it this week. And I mean, if I get another ad for Cheech and Chong gummies, I'm going to, every one of their ads are just trash. Because there's no companies on there anymore. They've all just left because Elon Musk said, you're allowed to speak freely. So all the companies just left. I mean, he himself is saying that the revenue is down 80%.
And he himself is being charged with crimes that are not crimes. He's charged with not hiring, new migrants that don't have green card, don't have anything. That is the DOJ and the Pentagon's rule for a rocket company. It's unbelievable.